Usually two token holidays stand out the most to me in terms of just reminding me of what you and I are surrounded by. I mean, people who don't have a fucking clue what's going on, which is why I'm going to call attention to two of these ritualistic holidays people repeat, they buy into, they support, they celebrate, etc., etc. So every single 4th of July, it's quite telling. If you hear a bunch of fireworks, there's a lot of fucking slow thinking people out there who, for the most part, aren't thinking at all. I've rattled it off a bunch. The Republic fell during the Civil War. It was finalized in 1871 when the Organic Act was created, turning America into a corporation, blah, blah, blah. And that's just the beginning of this jazz. And if anybody knew that, we wouldn't be celebrating the 4th of July. More importantly, during the first 4th of July, King George had pulled out of the States, but he continued to collect taxes on his vassal fucking colony. His crown colony. I'm talking about America. People wouldn't celebrate the 4th of July if they understood that they're fucking slaves. Currently, we're debt slaves. We're working towards becoming social credit slaves, and no one's doing anything to stop that. That should terrify you. Back in July of 2023, when everybody was babbling about the sound of Freemasons and all that shit and lizards on a plane, our masters rolled out FedNow. I believe it was on the 1st. And then WorldCoin began testing with a digital incentive as of the 24th of July, same year. No one did anything to stop this because they're not concerned with that. People are talking about a bunch of entertainment and just distraction campaign after distraction campaign. So here's the this one gets me every single fucking year, even though. So today is January 31st. December 31st. So everybody is gonna celebrate New Year's, which a lot of people out there know it's not New Year's. They know that the new year doesn't begin until March, approximately the 21st of March. And if you use your brain, it syncs up with the weather. Things warm up, things begin to live again. The season of death is over. But instead, people are going to celebrate the new year while things are still dead. Now that really should ring true to you. Just how many people don't have a fucking clue what's going on, and they're going with the flow, which is even worse. They're not standing up for themselves. They're not drawing a line in the sand. They're not willing to challenge others. They're going to go through all the fucking routines, all the ritualistic holiday horseshit. Because people aren't invested, they're not involved, they don't have a clue what's going on. And they'd rather fit in, not rock the boat, and just, live their best life. And so it goes. Things get worse and worse and worse and worse, exponentially speaking. You got a lot of people out there talking about how the world's on fire, everything's imploding, things are fucking horrible, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of those same kids are still talking about presidents and elections because they don't have a clue what's going on. You can look back at what I said about the 4th of July, but more importantly, America's the bottom of the trilateral city-states. Presidents are stewards who aren't allowed to hold official titles. Look up the Title of Nobility Act. Otherwise, they would be barons and dukes because it's a vassal colony. It's a crown colony. Which goes back to, again, King George leaving the States but continuing to collect taxes on his vassal colony. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, these are also crown colonies. Just to name a few. And if people knew these things, you would imagine if people meant well and they were thinking for themselves and they understood what's what, because you and I are fucking debt slaves. As of 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established under the pretense of being temporary and or voluntary, which it's still voluntary in writing. But most people are going with the flow. So if you don't do that, you can suffer some sanctions. The state, the government, however you want to look at it, really the corporation that is the District of Columbia, It will step all over your life and infringe on your quote unquote whatever little rights we have left if you don't play the game, if you don't fall in the line with everybody else. And the problem is everybody's fucking falling in the line. Now, with both those ritualistic holidays in mind, and keep in mind all of them are in place for a reason. Real fast, I want you to think about noise and silence. I want you to think back to 2020 when people were doing what they were doing. I loved walking around town when everybody was hiding out and terrified. It's very similar to a holiday. Now, why would it be that our masters would want us to be inside, doing what we're doing with people, and or outside popping off firecrackers at certain times? I just want you to think about noise and silence, magnetism, electricity, how things work. Is there a reason in terms of the calendar cycle of a year that we are herded, so to speak, through social expectations and we fall in the line based on peer pressure? Is there a reason on those particular dates that we celebrate these ritualistic holidays? I want you to think about that. Because most people aren't thinking at all, if you were listening to me and what I had to say. But as always, what the fuck do I know?